Karibu sana to another episode of the Tunado podcast. This is episode 7. Tumekazana sana. Episode 7, episode 7 in. Bado kuna episodes tumekalia zina exist too. In case the well run dry, watu wache kupatikana. Tunadropia those episodes. But karibu sana to episode 7 of the Tunado podcast. And leo tuko na the original crew in the house for the first time.
Original crew kiaje? Avanye tulianza, sindio?
Nimba na mse. Kakawaida yuko rada.
As always. Hey. Is it Roger ka yuko rada?
My lady. Welcome.
Roger alikuwa hapo for the 3rd and the 4th episode. Yeah. Ya Saba na your fave was Jesus.
Maze.
Your fave.
Maze.
And then Irauka has been here for since tuanze.
Yeah, man.
Hiyo time akukua. But say we are here sisi sote
na always African tuko huku kila time.
Hadi najua umechoka naye lakini itabidi tumezoea.
Hauna option. But now African
Irauka.
Oh, Roger.
So tutaanza na kusoma feedback from our previous episode and then to get into this episode. Itakuwa another reflective episode and such conversation. So
yes, sir.
Kulikuwa na a point kwa hiyo conversation na that previous recording where tuliongelea Jay-Z na Eminem. I used that as a snippet ya kupromo the episode. So ilipata feedback, ilipata engagement na pia the episode itself on YouTube kulikuwa na a comment.
It was a good listen. It was a good listen.
And what I noted kwa hiyo episode afterwards ilikuwa that myself, Irauka na Musoti, the episodes that we've done together zimekuwa nostalgic episodes. And kwenda back in time and reflect. So K9 mwenye amepotea kwa muda but aliapia because Irauka disrespect mtu wake. K9 alisema tueni Irauka kwa hiyo podcast. This is on Instagram. M is God but don't compare him to Hove. And then Asua Irene alikuwa na sisi kwa our hangout. Ile hangout tulifanyanga ya kwanza ya July.
Yeah.
Alikuwa na sisi. K9 pia alikuwa hapo na alikuwa pia for our second one in December. Asua alisema I find Jay's lyrics to be meh.
True that.
True words have never been uttered.
You know?
The whole I'm not a businessman. I'm
a
businessman.
He didn't do it for her.
He didn't do it to her, but that's a bar. Oh my goodness, that's a bar.
It's right there. It's very simple.
Bana.
But ni ali capture. Akaisema. And then Morio mwenye alikuwa nasi for a hangout ya last year December alisema Jay-Z ni wa biashara tu. Hata vile aliuza record zake ni more biz than connecting with people. Irauka tuko kimoja. Busy ya kupublish ngoma zake to a wider audience and in more versatile ways. Sio poems though, but nani atasikiza poor little old me. Nas Chef's Kiss alafu akisema Irauka tuko kimoja. Then nikamuuliza but hizo street stories and success yake zimeconnect na watu wengi sana, haven't they? Alafu meleta Nas juu Jay-Z ametajwa. Hebu tuambie kuhusu M. Akasema they have but many inatumiwa kama a lot. Haimaanishi kila mtu na haimaanishi a large amount. Only them that fall under the category. M ni mbaya. He always did what he wanted, spoke his soul. Maybe I didn't personalize his music, but I knew rap God word for word. Najua chorus za Jay-Z though.
You know, like that really sums up the two rappers. Like
Hiyo sentence ya mwisho.
Sentence yake like vile amesema anajua
rap God
word
for word lakini anajua hooks za Jay-Z.
You know, there was a clip.
My H to the Izo.
I think probably you've come across it of a guy asking how when was Jay-Z the best rapper
And
alive,
your
and he
clip
goes through
ilikuwa viral
decades,
the years
the
since
years.
Jay-Z akuwe active.
Yeah, it was very very interesting. Speaking of Nas,
Akisema hakuna mwaka Jay-Z was the top
because
rapper.
Yeah, but he was like at the top
figure.
cream. Yeah.
Speaking
but
of
like
Nas, are you guys bumping the
I haven't.
his latest releases?
Huyo kwangi fan wa Nas.
The Magic 2,
Magic 2.
Huyo
Magic, the King Disease series, no?
huyo
Although nimebump Magic, like not recently, but nimebump Magic.
ile ya kwanza.
Kwanza ili nice, but like sort I was like, yo, ni nani?
Nilitakia performance yake for the
Hip Hop at 50.
Hip Hop at 50. The best part was Lauren, although Lauren alikuwa na hema kidogo.
Mi kwanza vile nimesikia stories za performances za
Za Lauren.
Lauren Hill. Yeah,
Akona stories, akona stories for sure. Wamboi Karori mwenye pia alikuwa nasi for our hangout ya December on YouTube alisema Boomba Clan as in utachonga viazi if you don't pay that bill. Memories kusuliongelea Boomba Clan. Tukidiscuss wasanii wenye wamekuwa na outstanding bizarre videos tukimention Busta Rhymes, na Missy. Akasema Mat za Route 103 1 p.m. on my way from school. Sola Utosini zili introduced to hip hop. Nilikuwa nachukia how hardcore hiyo music ilikuwa ina sound. Kwanza hapa Kenya uko fulani. Nilikuwa na change station so fast. Nilikuwa kuenjoy Kenyan rap through wasanii wa Ogopa. Internationally, Eminem was it. Hugely contributed to my love for NF. Then akaendelea akasema so Eminem, Fat Joe, Lil Wayne, 50, Pure Bliss. Akasema Spotify wamenipea word count, so akaandomana alikuja YouTube. Sema nimeenjoy this episode sana. Roger huko hapo tukirecord hii session umesema ilikuwa an enjoyable listen.
It was.
Where do you kwanza stand on Hove versus as far as your question impact? Because I am assuming that you watched that episode. Ilikuwa a dead end hip hop episode that I was referring to. Sijui kama unaikumbuka, but it's one of those live sessions that they did. And ilikuwa a conversation that was happening, so okay, discuss kwa one of their live sessions, and ilikuwa hiyo question ya who had the bigger impact on hip hop, J or M. Unaweza tuambia sentiments zako regarding the two. Alafu pia because you didn't get to share, you can share your introductory experiences za hip hop.
Okay. My introductory experiences ni za hip hop ni African.
Such a liar. You are a liar.
I am learning on the job.
Najua.
You are a liar.
Najua.
No.
No previous work experience needed.
You know. The whole JM debate yukwanga interesting, especially now. I'd say msemenye kona the bigger impact tukiangalia if this was in like 20, if you were having this conversation in like 2010, like mid 2010s, ningesema Eminem, mostly because of I think he had just released Marshall Mathers LP2
that came
after Recovery,
a bit later because kulikuwa na Recovery kulikuwa na Bad Meets Evil,
kulikuwa na
2011
Relapse.
Relapse was 2009.
Yeah,
so 2010 ilikuwa Recovery.
Nikasema ulikuwa then
2010 and then
yeah. So yeah, because of the whole I'm not afraid thing.
So Bad Meets Evil.
And
but do you remember Hove your time 2009 alikuwa ametoa Blueprint 3?
Yeah, but that
and then 20
Magna Carta.
Alikuwa na Magna Carta and then alikuwa na Watch the Throne around the same time, but go ahead.
Yeah, so for at that time I was more of an Eminem person, mostly due I think he was I think cleaning out my closet was one of the first songs nearly learned in its entirety. Like the whole thing, and then the whole Stan they and it actually became a word to describe
Stans.
Exactly. You know, even before the beehives and the whatever, it was there were stands, and it was I can even the video, the writing, the nini, everything. Like for me, Ju ikikam to rap, I gravitate more towards stories, and I think I mentioned Ivia when we were looking at tuki rank. I don't remember which year it was, but kuna time to look at na rank the projects of the year, and it was either between Frequency.
That was 2020.
Yeah, between Frequency and I think was it Sadfa?
You got Frequency, Sadfa, Antidote, Lucky You.
Yeah, exactly. So I think kuna wase kadhaa they had Sadfa number 1 and then Frequency number 2. And for me, I had Frequency number 1 because I gravitate more towards stories, and as a storyteller, kuna Eminem was it was one of the best story from Guilty Conscience. I still remember the whole
yeah, this way.
So back then I would have said Eminem, but at the time I was just my experience with hip hop was just musically. I wasn't really interested in the business or seeing, it was just if the music, if I enjoy the music na story na nibamba, then niko more likely ku rank highly. But as I grow older and read more into what Jay has done or is doing outside of hip hop, then at this moment in time, I will say Jay has had or is having a bigger impact. It goes down to personality yao or motivation zao, because I feel as a black man and a billionaire, and maybe the Beyonce thing has an impact kidogo. He's more he's in a better position to be involved in all this social stuff than Eminem is, because Eminem say unless he has an album out or a project out, he retreats to his to his own world. So for me, I'd have to say Jay has had the bigger impact, but for me personally, I gravitate more towards Eminem. Ju he made hip hop seem fun. He made the real Slim Shady, not just his writing and the production, but even the videos. Like he just made hip hop seem fun. Nilikuwa mtoi nikimba I'm sorry mama.
Never meant to hurt you.
I never meant to make you cry.
But tonight,
I'm cleaning all my clothes.
Collateral damage. And hizo aspects umementions Eminem kama kukuwa fan, kuna a large majority of hip hop listeners at the time walikuwa na struggle kumsikiza because of that, based on what hip hop was. Alafu ongeze your fact that how are you as a child, as your son's child, as your mother's child, saying this about your mom?
Maze.
Need different culturally.
It was very ilikuwa very 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 weird. But then I don't know if it counts, but the whole sinajua hip hop na story ya struggle, kuna stand up comedian, he was like he always wanted to be a rapper, but he comes from a stable household. So what happened was his dad left like when he was 3 years old, but then his mom remarried, and the stepdad was like really loving and so the guy was like, man, my stepdad ruined my rap career.
He was so caring and loving.
Man.
After speaking of Eminem, his real name's Clarence. And Clarence's parents
have a good marriage. Yeah. There ain't no such thing as
halfway. Having a functional family
is not good for your rap career.
Could discredit.
Hiyo
ni kitu ongelea sana hata kwa battle rap.
Yes.
You go to private school.
Ulikuwa na wazazi.
Ban. Si rapa. Do you have a good life? You can't be a rapper.
Maybe try pop or something.
Try something else.
Yeah.
So speaking of hip hop, hiyo wiki that we record that episode towards the end mention hip hop at 50 celebrations. Kumekuwa na a lot of those internationally. Umetaja hata ya Nas na Masapil before.
It was like 8 hours long.
Yeah, I am here to watch it. I actually want to watch the whole of it.
You should.
So
I saw
kulikuwa
such a huge disparity juu tulikuwa at the K-Shaka nini at the Mist, and nilicheki Kalamashaka wakiperform. Kitusiwa was in attendance, you know, and nikicheki because in the show you had Run DMC, you had Melly Mel, I think alikuwa like pioneers, like
Melly Mel who has dissed Eminem.
Yeah, has dissed Eminem. Alafu ametokea na apology.
Amerescind. But Roger, hata kabla uendelee kuset to your foundation, that date kirecord I mentioned tutakuwa na celebrations huku, kulikuwa na a jadili session at Santuri Salon which is happening monthly. Kulikuwa na this specific one ya Kalamashaka kuangalia their legacy as it also ties to celebration ya 50 years of hip hop. Afterwards kulikuwa na a performance na a show at the Mist ya K-Shaka na pia other DJs. So fanya the conversation at Jadili, then afterwards kulikuwa na performances. That place was full. Kulikuwa na buzzing activities going on there, but ulikuwa nasema kuhusu the disparity that uli note. You can also delve into your experience of the evening.
Yeah. Those are you know, because you could kind of see for the quote unquote, I don't know, I'm putting it in quotes, but the pioneers of hip hop, ungetel, in a way, yeah, they're not where the Lupes and the Lil Waynes are right now, key financially, but they're not, like, you could see at least they're well put together.
They're not badly off.
Yeah, exactly. But then when I was,
internationally.
Yeah, internationally, yeah. But then because I watched it after the whole K-Shaka evening, and there's that whole follow through after you're not the hottest or nini, hauko in style sai as a rapper, not even just as a rapper, as an artist, as a Kenyan artist. If you know, as a Kenyan mainstream artist, or even in general, if you're not in the in thing right now, you're more likely to, like lifestyle echo to you, fall off a cliff, like ile massively hardy. So it was kind of interesting kucheki the whole thing. The show was really good, although kuna parts niliforward to 8 hours, man.
Hata mimi nikakuuliza 8 hours.
8 hours.
Only chini 8 hours uko na whole 8 hours.
No, they're certain people like
Sherehe.
Na so tu kwa hapo na celebrate na una watch tu.
Yeah, they're certain people
93 and
like
95.
Kuna wase specific niliwatch, kuna wase wengine nini
Lenga.
just fast.
They're not that significant to hip hop.
No, it's good.
Uliskip nani, hebu tuambie.
Niliskip
Melly Mel.
I was about to mention Melly Mel.
Niliskip performance ya Snoop Dogg.
Uncle Snoop.
Yeah. He's not a performer. He's not a performer.
Na vile creep walk kwa ile nini ya NFL halftime show.
No. Yeah, but he was on for like what, 3 minutes?
Kwa a short time.
Exactly. Ilifika point, I think he even called like other artists to support. Niliskip Ice Cube.
No, yeah.
Vaseline. Napenda Vaseline. But yeah.
Ngoma.
Yeah, Vaseline nakumbuka na pia no Vaseline. Yeah, of course. Of course.
That song was insane.
Usinipeleke Marsako.
Man. Wasalisha tu studio
Bana.
wakarekodi ngoma mzungu zako.
Bana.
Talk of making rap and hip hop fun.
Yeah. You know, it's weird. Niki scroll, I came across a reel, And the question was, if for every time you beat your meat, you go back 12 years.
How young would you be right now? Some of us would not exist.
Kwa niseme utapata msana ishi 10 AD wa 10 BC.
Kuna mzee kwa comment.
Keep going.
Nah, in one day.
Kuna mzee kwa comment alisema I've been going hard 3 times a day for the last 3 years. So like yo. But yeah, but
so
there are a few.
the discrepancy ulikunaongelea.
No, it's just the you know, when you wanna car, at least they can handle themselves ki flow. Because kuna parts kwa the K-Shaka performance, you could see, because I was just right up front, you could see kuna parts they didn't know the lyrics, you know.
To old songs.
Yeah, which at the time I was like, you know what, it's understandable, Jew. It's old songs. But then when I was watching the whole Hip Hop at 50 thing, and you have Grandmaster
Flash.
Cuz?
Yeah. When see, I don't remember who it was, but he was performing The Message.
Hao ni kina nani? Hao ni kina Melimeo.
Yeah.
Furious.
Yeah, and this was like what, in the 70s?
No, that's 82.
82, yeah.
The Message near 82.
Yeah, and hakuna you get, I have to check with you.
Of course anajua.
You know, 70s, 80s.
Trust me. You ulikuwa sawa. Mimi hata was like
ulikuwa ngoja tu msekande yako ase.
Like hebu jibu tuendelee.
But yeah, this is like what, like 40 50 years, 40 years ago, and they're still kind of holding their own kidogo. And then you look at you know, the performance at the K-Shaka gig, which is what, like 25 plus years. So kuna, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it was like a studio backed celebration. Of course, hapo do mingi sana ilimwagwa. So there was an insistence on being prepared. And for this one, it's, you know, to celebrate the things we're trying to do. But then again, it's just, you know, come, let's celebrate together. Nini. It wasn't really recorded. It wasn't being streamed all over the world. So I don't know if it's in how they did it and how we did it over here that made the preparation seem kidogo, you know, like it needs a bit more work or a lot more work. But yeah, see ati kuna, I think the only person who did it with the band was Lauryn Hill. Lil Wayne alikuwa tu na DJ na drama, which I liked that mashup. But everyone else, it was just a DJ. So ilikuwa hadi Lupe, it was just you know, DJ, of course, wanatoa verses alafu na like the whole chorus thing. But yeah, it was interesting.
Acha ni add on to what you've said.
Yeah.
I think the reason kuna such a big disparity ni how I would say the artists treat their artistry. Like I'm of the opinion that whether una performia place ile haita rekodiwa na waseni watano, ama unaenda kuperformia like 1 million people and the whole world is watching, like as an artist you need to be prepared, you need to be
the
well
same
prepared.
level of preparation.
Yeah, kwa sababu it's as much as ndio mtu anazangalia sasa wajanilipa ama nini, sitawapatia gig poa, basi usifanye hiyo gig tu, unajua. Like as an artist, it also like speaks on your artistry, vile unajipresent every time una perform somewhere. So like na feel ka hiyo na nataka nikisema artistry ninge pigeonhole Kenyan artists to that as well. Like unapata like a Kenyan artist ule akiwa on a big stage ako better than akiwa on a small stage. And
yeah, there's one especially that has just come to mind.
Unajua as
it's very annoying.
alikuwa naongea, nilikuwa nakumbuka we've had that convo with you mara kadhaa.
So like hiyo ya the Kalamashaka gig mimi naweza nini pointed to that like kusema ile maybe aliona kitu ni ndogo ni nini instead of one it's been like so long since tumeperform like hata kama ni msemo moja atatokelezea cause unajua the people who are there like wale walitokelezea Friday were like hip hop heads you know
your place ilikuwa packed hata for the session the Jadili session
it was
because nilifika earlier tulikuwa tuna set up ikafika hata 6 bado kuko na watu
6:30
few people 6:30 bado kuko na watu tumekaa hapo ndani na Furaha na Roja na Akili Nchama alikuwa ameingia pia just a few people countable people but ikifika 6:45 6:50 kingia 7 tulianza a few minutes past 7 hiyo place ilikuwa imechrome afu kulikuwa na watu pia wanakuja watu wanasimama nje ya
hapo kwa mlango
the room wakiangalia ilikuwa massive sana and even afterwards for the performance hiyo place pia ilikuwa imechrome na tukiangalia the videos that people share watu walikuwa na rap along ilikuwa this big culmination moment hip hop imeturn chwani K-Shaka is back and kuna a lot of feelings that people have regarding K-Shaka, their songs, kuna nostalgia, kuna history deep sana that watu wako nayo with them and you could see it kwa the conversation, watu wakishare their stories and pia you could see it kwa the performance. Kwanza, hata before to record, Akili Black akisema alikuwa hapo kwa show yao ya F2.
He was in the
back then, nilikuwa na imagine how that feels na hiyo memory that ulikuwa hapo akipiga show F2 alikuwa hapo akiperformia Lost Boys
ile time walibuiwa
ilikuwa Fukulio and Black alikuwa anasema alitoka hiyo show akifeel yes we also have something to offer ni
he said something
ni
about
a Kenyan version of Outcast kusema the South have something to say so Black isa the way na paraphrase but Black alikuwa anasema toka hapo akifeel yes we also have something of our own after hiyo show ya Lost Boys Sanya alikuwa Sanya alikuwa in the building na yeye pia alisema alikuwa hapo kwa show yao F2 performance yao kama ilikuwa kwanza ama one of those na pia alikuwa hapo for their show time ya Kulio.
Whoa, okay.
Waki get booed just hearing those stories and mse alikuwa hapo those many years ago and so kuna watu wako na different stories of how we interact with K-Shaka and their music, their history, so kulikuwa na hiyo energy that you could feel, this tangible energy around the room and pia kwa the performance session. That was a moment. I am still in disbelief that the Jadili session happened.
But I feel kama nikituli happen hiyo kwelo.
By the way, if
that's very historic.
Of course, man.
Of
course.
Yo.
It's something really huge.
if Kodo stops being lazy na tutoe the EPs na
Kodo
akatuzembe and then to kwa interview mimi nitakuwa vigeti. He knows the reason.
So utaacha mimi na mseto ongee because vigeti alijibu the first two questions that was it.
Akuongea tena hata kimuuliza
akasema yo
yo Roba ni Kalamashaka kama ni Kalamashaka so
Kenya watasema pia ndio
ni pia nimesema and that was it kutoka half an hour later akasimama akatoka
nasema kila kitu
na kitabu inatoka ilikuwa such an experience akarudi baadaye hadi ilikuwa such an experience
if I were him, I don't think there's any need for him to come back and apologize. I can't speak for everyone in the room, but even before, like you could tell if you were if you are keen on body language,
observing wote watatu.
Yeah, body language ya kila mseto alikuwa tu ana feel tu anakatua kwa
Alikuwa tu,
uncomfortable.
And navigating.
Yeah, because he kept leaning back and pulling.
Alikuwa tu
down
ameslump hivi kwa kiti.
and he kept pulling down
ametulia tu.
yeah, and so when he said like yo hizi si vitu zangu, when he came back and it's like siko bias, kuna mseme kama amenishow na kanika storm off.
Ati ni watu wamekaa kuwaona. And ili make sense because you understand you haven't done this in years.
Itabidi umeingia form teke bro.
Anasema people watu wamekaa kuwaoch. People haven't seen you in years. Watu
Una feel shy. Una feel shy.
So
haukaja kuja kuona.
Na understand akirudi na make hiyo apology. Hata ukiangalia ikianza kuna kile kama alisema jafanya stuff in a while, so ikika vile itakamtaelewa, so ilikuwa
tu bana. It was hilarious.
Alistuaje?
Si unajua nini kinadwa say like he
zile manini za
bana.
Unajua
it's like kama
one of the reasons nilikuwa nataka kukamia interview ni the little sneak facts zile kodo ataanza kuunleash like mid conversation ile ya mchikia hata vile umeshikia nywele na kumka kwa ile video yako ya sijui nini nywele yako zile kufananaje ule nini makeup artist ndio ule pale makeup pale mbele hadi makeup artist anastuka unajua like random shit like that ile ma connections ile hata the people who are connected didn't know about the connections until they are pointed out unajua.
Yeah.
Ilikuwa
si kitu ilikuwa recorded
walishtuka.
Walishtuka
sana.
Of course man.
Walishtuka sana
walishtuka maneno yao kustuka. Ina story finally.
Ilikuwa
like what inspires you?
Ukuuliza swali makosa.
Ningeanza na hiyo.
That is the only question that is support, you know.
Kenyan hip hop.
You know?
25 plus years later.
Yeah.
Ilikuwa amazing. Bado niko in disbelief. Ilikuwa such an honor that I have been able to get to that point and I have done that. I even said that imeenda kwa books za history. Hata ukiangalia the fact that they've not done this in more than a decade, because the last time I watched them perform ilikuwa 2014 during their comeback, na ilikuwa in December at Treehouse. That was their performance. Na walikuwa wawili, ilikuwa Roba na Vigeti kama wako around, walikuwa wameenda majuu for some time. So that even before that kulikuwa na couple of years before then tangu wako stage pamoja. Sasa then kuwapata kwa a setup where wamekaa kwa an interview pia together hivyo ilikuwa years. And then kwa hii context where kuna an audience, then it shall happen. So ilikuwa ilikuwa it's ni legendary na ni historic. So bei imepanda. And also just going back to what you were saying earlier, tukiangalia hata history yao, where they came from, kutoka D, alafu kukuwa na hit songs after hit songs na changing trajectory ya Kenyan music na Kenyan hip hop. Kulikuwa na hiyo point where even Robali bring up watu wali get into drugs na substances. So kuna hii disconnect ya these are young people from the hood wenye wanapata do na wame make it, and then hakuna previous blueprints that zina exist for such and how your career should go, kile unafaa kufanya. Hakuna financial guidance, hakuna systems that ziko hapo for them kuwaonesha how unaweza peleka career yako. Alafu ina fade away, industry inabadilika, kapuka inakuja, ogopa, the caliphs, media inaacha kufocus on nyinyi. So kuna a lot that ili happen, and even them getting into drugs na substances, kuna stories of crime that we get here rap about bar after bar, song after song. So kuna all of these factors, zile ni structural issues that hapa we don't have the systems. Ukicompare na the global entertainment industry where they value entertainment and wame create systems through the years za kuensure artists can sustain themselves. That inakipingi the artists on the go, na it keeps them in the zone throughout, because even wale artists wenye hawako mainstream, going back to our discussion on mainstream artists versus wasanii non-mainstream, internationally hata wasanii wenye ni non-mainstream na ni contemporary artists, they still sell out gigs and do shows kwa bigger venues than you would here. Wasanii wenye wako in their 50s and 60s huko bado wanakulia sana yao, they're still touring and performing, but these systems na structures that hapa tuko nazo na tumeona zikigrow na zikidevelop kusupport a Kalamashaka or older bands wenye waliifanya in the 80s and 90s bado waweze kuifanya at this point in time. So kuna a blanket sort of trying to do that and closing your gap and providing a solution. Ukiangalia how wamekuwa kileta the Maroon Commandos, the Les Wanyikas kwa hizi performances na kubridge hizi generational gaps that are there, so that now we have a platform that exists. The artists wenye are getting older, if these systems are there, and then pia economically tuko a different situation na other countries, but if pia the economic environment supports such activities, we can get there. But because those don't exist, ni tricky, very 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 tricky sana.
Sure.
At what how to what capacity does the artist na connection yenye amejenga na fan zake, what how important is that? Jum na feel for, can you mesema internationally, even the guys who are not mainstream, I don't, kuna systems that are there to help them, but I don't think the systems were necessarily set up to help them. They're still, if you look at the bigger picture, they're feeding off of crumbs basically. But the reason why Mseka nani, I'm trying to think of a band. Let's say AC/DC. Yeah, the reason why AC/DC, it doesn't matter which show they put up, they'll sell out, is because kunayo they still have that connection with their fans, and you'll find it's not really that they're bridging the gap. Juu ukienda show ya AC/DC utapata wazai in their 40s and white, 40s 50s, 40s 50s 60s, who are listening to them when they were in their 20s. Ukienda show ya I don't know, Run DMC, you'll get black or Hispanic
people,
guys in their 40s and 50s. So it's not necessarily bridging the gap, because even when you watch the show, the Hip Hop at 50 thing being streamed, when they pan to the audience, there are certain performers where you can kind of gauge the age of the people enjoying it. Juu si kila msee alikuwa na sing along to the lyrics. Kuna wase wengine tu, kuna wase wengine wa just msee amalize, but you could tell there are certain people who, when so and so is on stage, it's like it's a moment for them, because it's same as Mseka Akili. Why for him that moment was special is because he saw them from F2 na pia kwa show ya Lost Boys, and there was that connection. So do you feel pia kuna role ya artists don't really build a connection with don't not only really build but also sustain your connection, fans? Wow. So it doesn't matter whether my song gets played on radio, it doesn't matter whether the mainstream pays attention or whatever, I can I can still, maybe not arenas and whatever, but I can still sell out. Nikeka show Gute, I can sell tickets. Nikeka show maybe KNT, I can sell maybe 75% of the whole thing. It doesn't matter, like you get.
Yeah, but no, that's true. But the thing go back to the international and global bands na artists, so wamekuwa na the way they've cultivated that relationship has been through there being venues na avenues for them to do so.
But there's still venues here.
Compared to here.
Not as much.
Ndio nasema, as compared to here. And we know kwa our scene, most people who get the best out of their art ni mainstream artists.
Yeah.
And the performances that they do, kama ni kwa campuses, kama ni kwa pubs na clubs, for instance nakumbuka nikiona interview ya Boutros a while back on mic check time alikuwa amedrop banga yake Angela alikuwa anasema
ni ngoma gani?
Anje.
Hizo mziki sijui bana.
mseni kama Musoti mainstream atambui
kabisa.
careless that alikuwa anasema amekuwa so busy na unapata hata within a night anapiga shows kama 4.
Yeah.
Anatoka venue A anaenda venue B, venue C, venue D and back to back.
Yeah.
Na most of those places ni clubs, pubs, restaurants. So ukiangalia the various bands and artists internationally, them taking music seriously imekuwa cultivated na there being platforms for different artists kwa able kushowcase na kukulia. And so even with that, hata without you releasing music, of which their tours and their performances are tied to music, because nakwanga you release
And
a body of
something that
work
you-
and then you
yeah,
go and
you tour
perform.
it, yeah.
So even that system in itself ina allow for au kuifanya in the way they've done it. So with different venues, clubs, pubs, venues are performances specifically which tuna lack hapa for that specific purpose. All of these factors zimechangia for artists different kukuwa able ku cultivate in the way that artists huku wame cultivate. Unless Wanyika, I would say they've performed at different pubs na clubs over the years and imewa keepingi relevant. And pia older bands na musicians, because hivyo ndivyo pia walikuwa naanza tu ukisikia story ya The Mushrooms, they've always done that and did that, but haijakuwa to a large scale level where it inaweza allow different artists wafanye their art, venues za kuwa support, fans pia wa show your support in return, and with this sort of feed it comes in, it goes out, and it builds to this huge thing whereby that can happen. And nilikuwa nasema hivi after your conversation that the Calligraph Joneses, the Octopizos, the King Kakas, the Nyashinskis, as far as Kenyan hip-hop is concerned, watakuwa the first generation of Kenyan hip-hop kuonesha the younger generation that you can do this and succeed if they get to the latter years of their lives.
And they're still
Watakuwa wamepeana hiyo blueprint
Let me-
as that first generation. Because hata sahii in their 30s ani watakuwa na endorsement deals day in day out,
Yeah.
back to back.
Yeah.
So wale teens wenye wame grow up in the internet era and these are the people they are seeing, watasema this is possible. Cause ao ni era ya wapi? Ao ni era ya wapi? And they're the crop that were manage kujisustain na
Throughout.
kuonesha say
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
very possible.
true.
So from there ukiongeza other celebrities na personalities in different fields, people are seeing the possibility of pursuing creative endeavors na I succeed.
Yeah.
So they will change that. Yeah.
Again, I don't know, like system tukiongea story ya systems, yeah, it has changed, but let me pose it for you this way, and also for you, Sam. How many Kenyan artists would you travel to go watch it?
None. Who
You're
you?
asking the wrong person. I'm the wrong person for that question.
Okay, so okay, all right. But is there an international artist who ukisikia kona show? Give me a town. See Nairobi, yeah, in Kenya. Give me a
LD.
town. Yeah, ukisikia any
Eldoret.
international artist.
Iten.
Ukisikia kona show Eldoret, and you have the money. So see ati ni doa you have the money. Unaweza afford tikon, unaweza afford to travel. It's just the inconvenience.
Okay, so
Is there someone in mind who you travel?
even Kenyan artists kuna wale I can travel to go see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that it's not what's it called?
Sort of
It's not a
fancy for you.
priority for me. Like
Okay, and for you?
so like kuona live I understand there's some artists you need to see live.
Yeah.
Like there's some artists you need to see live. Kwanza if you enjoy their music, like to enhance the experience of their artistry. But with that said, mimi sipendi kutoka kwa nyumba. hata ndio nikikam leo.
Struggle.
I almost did come.
Even me when you
Almost did not come.
usiku niko like
But to answer your
I am
question,
old, man. I am
to answer
old.
your question, I
Better.
would say ningetaka kuona Kendrick for the performance because like yeah he's a performer.
Yeah.
Ningetaka kuona Milo aka Nira Ferreira. Pia yeye ni Escalops Hotel.
Any Kenyan hip hop artist?
And there was silence.
Nafikiria ningotaka kusema Tra, lakini vile nimemwona kiperform like najiuliza, is he a performer to a point where I would travel to go see him? I'm not sure. But naweza travel kwenda kuona like sema Tra kama anaenda anafanya performance ya a project ile ame drop na it's like the first performance of it. What I get?
Right.
Like a ceremonial thing.
For you?
Yeah. Na metaphysics.
How many
Just to see metaphysics.
Because the reason why the reason why nauliza is because is the mic still on? They were having this conversation. So
Sijasikia bado najua tunarifadi.
Yeah, but
so walikuwa nasema
yeah, so they were saying how because the podcast is based in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And at the time they were recording this, Beyonce was having like a series of shows in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And walikuwa naongea about how it was because I think she did like 3-4 shows, and they were complaining about the traffic. Like time, like when she was performing, when they were saying when you're walking around Atlanta, like ilikuwa like almost empty.
Yeah.
Juu kila mse yako, like almost kila mse yako, because she sold out all the 3 shows. So so and Mike was saying like there was that whole debate about hip hop artists aren't really selling out because the baby, is it the baby or Lil Baby? Who's Abe's favorite?
Lil
Baby.
Okay, yeah, yeah, because Lil Baby has had to.
We've had so many arguments about the baby versus Lil Baby.
because Lil Baby has had to cancel like 3-4 shows from his tour because of sales, like ticket sales as zitakuwa levels nafaa kuwa, yeah. So there was that whole debate because there was the whole mainstream thing, and Mike, who's really into rock and metal, alikuwa asema like Metallica wakienda on tour also sell out na hawatakuwa na a new song or like a hit for like forever. So and that's why I'm saying like I agree with you completely. There's a role that systems does not play, definitely, and back then those systems were non-existent. So you can see that there are. But I still feel artists aren't really doing enough both either connect na build your connection na follow through, because for instance Kamseka Butros akienda perform in the club, in the bars and whatever, like sing the song Angela. How many, maybe it's a terrible example, and it is a terrible example, but how many people would be like, hey man, this song speaks to me? And I'll be like in 20, 30 years when they hear it, because again, you guys should go watch the whole concert, because when they're playing songs from like the 80s and 90s, hip hop songs from the 80s and 90s, and they band to the crowd, you can see like or say what like even when Randy MC the whole put your Adidas up and like you could see people like
Adidas
the amount of Adidas kicks or
like MC was legendary.
Exactly.
Wali change.
Exactly, and that thing carried through. And even when
they were among the first
to get a major endorsement from Adidas. Massive. And even when Lauren was performing, and she was the songs from Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and the camera pans to the audience, and you could see like, these guys are like actually feeling it. And in K-Shaka, kwa gig ya K-Shaka, wakicheza some of the songs, and when you listen to the crowd, like wenyewe say, man, it was a moment.
Tuna rap along.
Exactly. It was
Tuna
huge.
rap along.
Exactly. So then that's why I'm saying, because that happens regardless of systems. Hizi mziki bado kuna wase that when they still connect with it. yeah, ndio kwa maana nasema to some extent kuna responsibility na fall to the artist, because hakuna major record labels na push Run DMC or zina push hip hop artists from like the 80s and 90s. No, okay, everyone is focused on the Lil Babies and I don't even know who do people listen to these days. But yeah,
Beyonce, Beyonce.
no, like hip hop artists.
No, you're
like
just mentioning artists.
Like the Lil Ducks.
Lil Nas X.
Yeah, although is he really hip hop artist?
Lil Uzis.
Yeah, I think he's
the
considered
Yankee, the Travis Scotts, the Ice Spices.
Yeah, so that's who the systems are. The systems uko juu because they are quote unquote profitable because we're on the masses. So most of the attention is focused on promoting them.
Yeah.
But because of musically what guys some hip hop artists in the 90s and the 2000s and the 80s did, they still that connection, and I feel it also plays a role. Jew, if maybe it won't sell out. Of course, it won't sell out. But if
Of course, it won't sell.
Yeah.
Wow. With the artists you mentioned, the groups you've mentioned, mtuka Lori, Run DMC, hao ni watu wenye hiyo nostalgia na hiyo connection with their fans
Kitu kubwa sana.
ilikuja from selling records.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Which we do not have.
Hata nikotaka kusema part of it ni accessibility. Like wasanii wa Kenya hawana mafans, mafans hawana muziki ya wasanii wa Kenya.
Yeah,
which pia inatai to economic ability.
Yes, economic ability
of doing so.
Yes, na pia hata accessibility ile ya msana penda hip hop but hajui mali anaweza get hii album ya unasikia mseka Katra, like nini E2 his new
Malizaro.
Malizaro 2. Like unaweza msema penda hip hop lakini hajui, first of all, hajui existence ya Tra kwa sababu in terms of reachability yake si kubwa hivyo. Sote anaplewa kwa radio kama unasikizanga mostly radio, sote anaplewa sana kwa TV the beats, jika the beats bado yuko by the
I also don't know. Which it would be a shame if it isn't anymore, because that thing is a staple.
No, it is.
Really do. And that was one of the most painful experiences za kwenda boarding.
The beach. That is actually true, because your time ukienda boarding maybe ulikuwa na favorite programs,
hauna option. Utaenda stay at the wall.
You will, so
and imagine
kwa akili yako ni you will miss out.
It was worse.
You will miss out.
It was worse if chuo yenye umeenda kuna section ya day scholars, because I was saying come the next day
napigia tu story.
Wanakwambia vile nini ilikuwa.
Man, refu ilishika jana. Aya man, ungecheki.
So hata ni poa tumebring that up, watakongelea hip hop na identity, but even before we do so, I am glad that K-Shaka is back. I'm just hoping that, speaking on accessibility, were able to organize their music na uzieke on streaming platforms, because itasaidia sana, similar to what De La Soul walifanya just this year.
Yeah, even
just this year.
Hata nikota kubring up De La Soul with regards to Kalamashaka and availability of music.
Yes, for sure. Itasaidia sana.
That's what I'm saying. Like the systems are there today that weren't there 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But to some extent, bado kuna responsibility, go back to the artist. Can you definitely kwa nini na your artistry na kwa actually take that.
Na kujaribu get the music to out there. Juka sijika will get time to talk about like Kenyan projects, but like seme ka nilisikiza Rift, and I mention it a lot nikiongelea Kenyan projects. The only reason I listen to it ni one of the rappers on the project ali sell to me tukiwa at a gig. And but they nilisikiza that is a project that changed my
your life.
my Kenyan nini
You're live.
vile
Sema
nilikuwa
tu
naona
live.
Kenyan rappers.
Yeah.
I was like,
Msanii
kumbe kuna
mstingy.
Kenyan rappers.
Mwanze.
Hawezi sema live. You can't say-
Sema tu, hataki kupeana.
Why lie?
You change your life.
I am glad you mentioned the beat and nostalgia and wanted to get into hip hop na identity. So nilikuwa naona podcast fulani called To Ratio, walikuwa pia wanaongelea hip hop at 50 and sharing on different aspects of that entire celebration.
Do you think we'll be around when it's hip hop at 100?
Hey, check you.
even at 16 akakuwa ngumu msee.
Hip hop at 51.
Even at 50 and a half.
Mimi nimeishia kutosha. What do you mean? Mimi nimeishia kutosha. What?
Hip hop at 50 in 1 month.
Lived enough. And
too much.
kuna point walikuwa nasema how people could relate to Tupac and what Tupac ali represent and what they saw and what they heard about Tupac. Kwa the comments nilikuwa nasoma earlier, Morio aliongeza one comment ya how hip hop kukuwa na characters ni something important. So for instance, ukiongelea Hov earlier, nilikuwa nafikiria ukiongelea impact yake hata outside of the Illuminati symbol and the triangle.
Man.
Nani alituwekea 20 Octopizo. Ma triangle. Alichora.
Wachiki yo status vile nimeisema.
Swag.
Nikitumia mahali. Haina anatika.
This is swag news.
Alichora samosa kwa okay.
Everyone's like, yo, kuna Octopizo amejeni Illuminati.
And
But you know, maybe. Unajua siku hizi operate Europe nini.
na hivyo ndio mepenya pata ma Hennessy deals and so huwezi jua.
You never know.
So
Illuminati kama natusikiza.
tutafute
We also want to lock it.
tutafute.
Tuko na kuna painter hapa.
Maze tuko na lot. Tuko na lot to offer. We can offer you a lot. Illuminati. Just come and
If you're
illuminate
listening,
us.
if you're listening.
Yeah, already tuko na matatu. Lazima tuko na tattoo ya light bulb.
Maze. Wakana ya mti. Nakoda kuna dread mingi sana. Si soba.
Manze. Mingi kuja you have the entire ancestry.
Maze.
Yes, no.
Sikuji kama mtu mmoja. So kwa hiyo podcast wali mention Tupac na kile ali represent and alien kafikiria Jay-Z na comment ya Morio that Jay-Z ni the rapper's dream.
Oh yeah.
Kule alianza
Yeah.
street stories,
Kwanza hiyo
drug dealing,
kwanza hiyo rappers wa drug dealing.
street stories, drug dealing and hii point amefika kukuwa a billionaire.
Ameoa Beyonce.
Yani,
You know?
Yani
As in-
as a character, as a figure, that is hizo factors zote. Uni kama kumbuki time over kunasema ilikuwa Crazy in Love akimention vile kona the hottest chick in the game.
Yeah.
That was that was a thing. So ana represent the rapper's dream as a figure. Ukifikiria Roger uskiza Mac Miller is one of
Easy
hip
Mac with the
hop's
cheesy raps.
beloved figures.
Oh yeah.
Tangu wa Daddy.
Yeah.
Stories
Even
zake,
before,
stories
yeah.
nasema
Before, yeah.
stories zake za addiction and those struggles zake za addiction, yeye could represent what they represent as a white boy in hip hop hiyo time and kids and kama yeye. Ukifikiria a Juice WRLD for example, mwingine pia ani hip hop figures and rap figures whom people can identify themselves with. Huku alikuwa nafikiria I think jana that kunaweza kuwa na an argument ya wakardinali as far as impact on the youth
Oh yeah.
being the biggest.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ever.
definitely.
I agree as well.
It's massive. I mean, Seise, because back in like the K-Shaka time, I was too young.
Cause hiyo pia nilifikiria cause nilikuwa nafikiria the Nyashes, the Isas, the
But then-
K-Shakas.
yeah, but then
But sasa unajua tuko era yenye ni magnified juu ya internet.
Yeah. And then also
their reach and their impact ni larger.
And also pia content, because the Isas and the Nyashinskis weren't really touching on street.
Hiyo pia. And so kuna hii
party life.
Yeah, ilikuwa tu.
So kuna hii kusikia stories that you can relate to. Lingo unaelewa, lingo uongea, and kuna kule wamefika.
Bas. Hata video zao ni very gritty.
Yeah.
Watu wengine pia nafikiria ni Brooklyn
Boys.
Boys.
They removed walikuwa wapi?
Haiko mtandaoni?
Walitoa.
Yeah,
the video.
Na video nini kwa sina kwa kile wako
walikuwa wapi?
Another group that pia mavijana wana relate sana nayo ni Brooklyn Boys. Au pia wako na massive fans
for them
na impact. So sijui if tusende hata ati mbali to older artists, nilikuwa naifikiria in the context of contemporary rap artists. Kama kuna artists wenye me identify with in one way or another for whatever reasons. Yes,
Kenyan. I can say Nyash maybe, but then is he this generations or does he fall and
he's a different generation, but he's a contemporary
just
artist.
venye tu ame maneuver since his comeback, when ame maneuver the mainstream and everything and commercially and for me it would be him.
Yeah, I mean mimi ni
None.
Chabuli.
Oh.
Mimi nani mostly vile like kwanza nikisema about his writing, naongelea writing yake. Ukiangalia Occult Lovely ilikuwa very playful na very
na Illuminati-ish.
Illuminati. Nasikia
Illuminati.
Maybe he's also a member.
Illuminati. Huwezi jua.
And then pia vile like rating yake ni vulnerable. Like vile he knows how to be vulnerable, na pia anajua how to write about the esoteric. Like hizo ni vitu mimi napenda sana. Vitu like mara kuna kati I can't remember, obviously nikisema nikitaka kusema paraphrase bali, lakini kuna jo ni correct. I don't want to be corrected on record. But yes, Chabudi is that rapper for me. Wewe?
No, I think I'd go with Tra as well.
Yeah.
Na mostly ni for the content.
Yeah.
Mostly for the content na zile philosophical ideas.
Bas.
Zile ameka kwa music yake na ito amefanya for a long time.
Yeah.
So just
so kitu ameanza tu juzi. True.
Ki idea, ki thought process, and I've always felt if ungekuwa na going back to spaces earlier za kuallow different artists hapa ku excel.
Yeah.
I've always felt that based on content na age, Trang fit very well into archetype ya Tupac. Nasema nikisema content, nasema the content that they have
in terms of like
and at their age,
the number of projects.
Nasema content in terms of
like thematically,
not the same themes,
like in terms of
but
how
just
much content they have.
that they had, because Pac was very political and very socially aware. Na alikuwa young na alikuwa prolific. Tra nae ni philosophical na alikuwa na this in-depth ideas from very young. So that's the idea. I've always thought that, but
Mimi around after
I'd also pia mentioned Romy.
Yeah.
Na Romy sana, but kwa pia na Uchuka based on literary references. Na also philosophical ideas.
Zake. And then pia hata vile anafikiria.
Uko nasema kitu?
Nikasema nilikuwa naona after all roads lead home, I was like, try is going to be a household name. As in, it still breaks my heart. It's not.
It's gonna sound wrong, but you give Kenyans too much credit.
Yeah, I know, man.
You gave Kenyans too much.
like yo watu wanakusikizia kitu man.
Wewe toka kusikia Angie and then
but like but
Unaweza
sijui ni aje try is not bigger than
kama venye nani usemanga Rhapsody kwa Laila's Wisdom akisemanga watu wana expect asikuwa nasikia ratchet music
but she does,
but alikuwa na make it club to Waka Flocka last Christmas. Unajua
no again
ni possible
so
naweza come from kusikia Bena's got a baby to Angie. Inawezekana.
maybe
Angie's got a baby.
Maybe Brenda's baby was Angie. Now she's without any guidance. She's
or the person who impregnate Brenda ameendea Angie.
Walai tena.
Huwezi jua. So, I wanted us to still on hip hop na identity ni katika tu gusie women in hip hop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And kuna something that nilikuwa na watch. So kuna a podcast that I think I came across this podcast this year. So nilikuwa nimeona one of their videos pop up and nikaamua kuicheki, and it's usually segments of their main podcast. So nimekuwa nikiwasikia nikiona their conversations on hip hop.
What's the podcast called?
Wanaitwa New Old Heads.
Oh, okay.
New Old Heads. Their conversations on hip hop na culture na all that's tied to it. So on Saturday walikuwa na a segment they published ya kuongelea a feature that they had on Netflix, vile walipata hiyo placement but sasa ili happen bila au kujua. People are just sending them
The clips.
the
Or the
clips na links that wamko kwa Netflix documentary. So kuna a clip of one of their older episodes that walitumia kwa the documentary. So walikuwa na share their experience with that and their perspectives. Then on Sunday, as I was thinking about what tutagusia kwa this episode, nikaona another segment that walikuwa wameshare. So I was watching it. So hii ilikuwa ina proceed hii ya previous one ya kuongelea the documentary which inaitwa Ladies First. It's a documentary on Netflix. It's a new one. Ile inaongelea women in hip hop.
Okay.
Na nimesikia that imefanywa vizuri. Hear that it's well done. So hii alikuwa niambia imefanywa fiti sana. So nikaamua kufollow because I have never gone to their main podcasts nione the longer episodes. I just watch their segments. So nikasema acha nione the convo vile flow from the Netflix conversation to this new video that nilikuwa nacheki sasa jana on Sunday. So that snippet and segment of the video initially ilikuwa inaitwa New Old Heads Talk How Women in Hip Hop Are Exploiting Themselves. And then nikiangalia earlier today ilikuwa New Old Heads Talk How Women in Hip Hop Are Now Disrespecting Themselves. So inakuja from a larger podcast episode, one of their episodes wakiongelea Ladies First, wakiongelea pia what I am just mentioning here, na pia wakiongelea story ya Melly Mel na hiyo disi yake to Eminem ku apologize, hivyo vitu vyote. So I wanted to play a clip here and then mshare sentiments zenyu.
Is it Kong?
On blast.
Is it Kong kaile kitu uliwasomea ya nini ya being an African?
Ile as a dismiss. Nika flash musoti. Umsaka mseti. Go fast. Let me gather my thoughts. Ogopa wenzako.
They use Snoop talking about pretty much
bad about somebody,
talking bad about the WAP song essentially.
Yeah.
So it was him saying that, and then they were using his own stuff against him. You know what I'm saying? So at least that didn't happen
my
to
one
us.
criticism of this, and this is something I brought up whenever these conversations come up about how, you know, basically men act in hip hop as far as like the content, not as far as what happens in the actual offices and, you know, the exploitation and not taking women seriously as executives, because I understand that's a real thing and it's a problem still. But as someone who's been, you know, outside for the better part of 2 decades, even more at this point, you know, these records that are exploitive and demeaning towards women only work because women like them.
Exactly.
And, you know, that might be controversial to say, because I remember when the whole tip drill thing came out and it was like, men need to stop playing these songs and and stop making these songs. And no one wants to put the onus on women to stop dancing to these songs.
We were definitely outside and got a clear-cut view as to how that song rang off.
You know, and so now it's at a point where that's almost like the secret formula to where, you know what, we'll just skip the middleman and having men be remarkably disrespectful. In a way, we'll just go ahead and disrespect ourselves and make that the chorus of the song.
Right.
And the women will have the same reaction. You know, I've always said if women control the culture of what happens in these spaces. If women said, okay, we don't want to be disrespected, we don't want to hear any of this nasty stuff, bees ain't ish, whatever. Like, because I remember when that song would ring off and women would be out there on the dance floor when when Snoop and Dre did that.
That's
record.
true.
That women did not walk off the dance floor when that would come on.
This filth.
Yeah. And so, like, you can say, oh, these men are irresponsible, it's disrespectful to women. It's only disrespectful to women because that's what women respond to. Because if women responded to what Rhapsody was doing, we'd play Rhapsody in the club. Everybody talks about how much
crazy. All
these women talk about, oh, we love Rhapsody, this and that. No, you don't. Because when I went to go see Rhapsody, you know who it was? It was white people and dudes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bunch of black women in there. But I guess guarantee when Sexy Red come to town.
Oh.
Talking about that brown thing.
Yeah, and so that's going to be a situation. So, even when it's the baby or any male artist who's over here talking real disrespectful and crazy, you couldn't keep women out of there.
What's the saying goes? Sex sells. So now they just took the ball back, put it in their court.
True.
Because honestly, right now, women are kind of on the top of hip hop, but it's like they're all using the same formula. And I know we get backlash for saying that, but it's the absolute truth. Every top female artist right now is using the exact same formula, exact same content behind different bars, different beats, in a different voice.
Look, man, you can't fight capitalist exploitation with capitalism, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter who's getting exploited. If somebody else runs into that rule, if women are controlling it, it's still exploitation. It's just people don't pay attention to that aspect of it. It's just what it is.
You know, so I mean, like I said, when you talk to DJs, you know, they would rather not play these records. I'm talking about the male DJs. You know, they would. You've
heard some.
They would rather play the hip hop that they like. When most DJs,
they don't want to hear that though.
Yeah, but you know, when you're in these spaces, in the business I'm in. Basically, my whole thing is to make sure that black women 21 to say 31 enjoy themselves in certain spaces.
Right.
Okay. We make sure that we have the drinks that they like. We play the songs that they like. We have the lighting profile that, you know, is most conducive to them feeling safe.
Yeah.
You know, and if they didn't want to hear these records, we wouldn't play them. I'll take even further behind the curtain. When I was working in commercial radio for Clear Channel, which is now iHeart, I always got to specify that. I remember sitting down with the operations manager. The operations manager is basically the person who's above the program director of your local radio station. Sometimes he is the program director, except he's programming more than one station. They have all these charts and graphs and everything about, you know, the songs that are coming in and how they're researching. Because once again, it's not about feel, it's about research, because it's about what you can sell. And
analytics.
Yeah, and analytics. And it's broken up by men and women. Okay. I'll never forget this. He took all the analytics that had to do with men's likes and dislikes, but was researching. Basura. And he threw it away. Basically dropped it in the trash can. Everything that you hear on the radio is based on almost basically 95, if not 99%, is based on the likes and dislikes of women. So when you hear a song, be like, "Ooh, why are they playing that nasty song? That's terrible." It's because women like it.
Let me ask you this question. I got an interesting take on this then. If men are in the position of power in this aspect, let's say the clubs, and let's say Clear Channel and the radio, what if men just forced the other music, you know, didn't play that other stuff at all? Even though
researched well?
Yes.
They'd be looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, you know, there's a burden on men to perform and make sure they keep that money rolling in. Once again, we talk about capitalism. I
think it will be.
It doesn't matter what those men like, because, you know, the research tells them this is what the ladies like.
So where does it start then?
I'm going to go ahead and put the responsibility on the women. Ladies, if you are really, truly offended, you want this tide of disrespectful, nasty music to stop, you got to start walking off the dance floor.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So until you start
R.
walking,
Kelly is still getting played.
Until you start, exactly. Until you, and it's women out there dancing. And so if you hear something that's so nasty and so foul and so disrespectful, but you like, when you put your drink down and be like, girl, let's get to the dance floor.
It's not going to happen.
I'm sorry, but like, you cannot ask men to go against their own financial interests when they have the burden of performance to make sure they stay employed.
And there was silence.
No wonder you don't have women on this podcast. After that laugh, hapo ndio watu wameka acha kusikiza.
Right there. Intellectual.
Yes, sir.
Talk to us.
Well, whether I agree or not, or what's the
Whatever.
question? No, it's the nigger paradox.
What is the nigga paradox, bro?
You remember
Break it down for us.
You remember the Boondocks episode, or where the white teacher called was it Huey or Riley? It was Riley, isn't it?
Riley.
It was Riley the N-word, yeah?
Ukumbuki? I said nigga. Not nigger.
you know it's from an actual story.
Yes, it really happened.
It actually
happened in a school.
It actually happened in a school. Yeah.
And that's what the teacher alikuwa anasema for real.
And because the teacher was like, they call themselves that, they refer to themselves like that all the time. Nigga this, nigga that, nigga this, nigga that. So it's only offensive when he said it. Same thing. So that's what I call the nigga paradox. It was exploitive when a man is telling you to make that booty clap. But if it's Meg the Stallion, or if it's Cardi, then it's empowering. Yeah. So it's plus women, maybe not always, and not in every genre, but in most genres, women do have the purchasing power. And especially when it comes to clubs and everything, there are very many clubs, especially Maju. The whole thing of they try to have more women than men in the club, yeah. And so if kuna ikanga point ingine wa freeze majama, if there are too many men and there are not enough women, like you get. So and because it's the that's the kind of general quote unquote policy or the unofficial law, because women are the majority in a club, then it makes sense why DJs and everyone would play songs that women would like. Yeah.
Scholar.
Wet ass pussy.
It is a good song.
You like it?
You know? Wap, wap,
You like
wap.
it like that?
Certified freak.
You like it like that?
I am a certified freak.
Tu ulikuwa nasikia tu unacheka tu ukisikia ama brother wanne wakiongea.
Hataki kusikia Laila's wisdom.
Hataki kusikia Laila's wisdom. Hataki kusikia room 25. Hii maneno ya derogatory na hizi like mimi sioni shida. But there is a sioni shida.
Yes,
ni kwa sababu people are not being forced to listen to these things. Like clearly, hata vile tu wamesema clearly there's a market for these things. Ndio maana zinaendelea. Like ni kama ukipita mahali kwa barabara unashiki hiyo barabara iko empty lakini kila wakati ukipita kuna duka fulani kwa hapo imefunguliwa. The reason hiyo duka imefunguliwa ni kwa sababu yupata customers.
Yeah.
Hajafungua tu kwa saa hivyo tu randomly, you know.
But then would it be hiyo duka ilifunguliwa juu watu wanatumia hiyo njia sana?
Maybe but either way hata kama useme something unaona this thing you keep on seeing something that is open but you don't understand who buys from it. The reason that it stays open
because someone is buying from it.
Exactly. So the reason pia like such music ikona a lot of airplay is because there's a very huge need for it, like not need, want for it.
Yeah, it's
feel a big gap and in a play into the whole escapism nini.
It's the same thing with
narrative
with male rappers and pushing the whole drugs and
and money
and everything.
Like and then the whole empowerment.
We all been exploited, so
you can't really dictate how someone feels empowered. You know, like I feel empowered when I haven't combed my hair and I haven't done it for like 3 years.
True. There was a
you know, so fear with that. Yes,
dictate.
Yes, is it dictate? Mimi nasema tu iendelee if it will only die out once want for it haiko. You know. Na feel hakuna vile tunaweza sema ati sasa such artists hafai kuget airplay ama such music hafai kuexist kwa sababu clearly there's a want for it. If it ever gets to a point where quote unquote conscious music itakuwa like mainstream na that is what will be wanted by the people, you know, ita get a lot of airplay, unajua. Like ile Katseme for example, if najua people still call into radio, but like imagine Kiss FM inashinda kipata call ile ya eni aje umeplay ngoma mpya ya Pablo, unasema Pablo ni nani, wanakata simu. Next caller, we play ngoma mpya ya Pablo, like
Pablo
the whole day wametia ngoma ya Pablo, the next day do you know by the third day watatafutia ngoma ya Pablo. Because there'll be a need for it. Itakuwa ile ya Pablo nani? Like hata kama ni the same voice with different accents. Watachoka tu I play, you know.
The main media is always behind. There's a story I don't remember who it was, but I think it was from a promoter of a small label based in I think in the south. And alikuwa naulizwa how have you managed to put out so many hits? And alikuwa like, do you want to know how? Because as he says, as soon as one of the artists record, the first place they take it to play it is in the strip clubs. And if the strippers dance to it,
it's a hit.
It's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
The main media is always behind it. Trust me, if the masses weren't if Wakardinali were not as popular with the people as they are, hungaisikia Geri Nengi, hungaisikia
definitely
Sikutambui, hungaisikia Balalu, hungaisikia maybe Balalu kidogo, because it's kind of, but there are very many songs of theirs that you wouldn't
Geri Nengi mimi nikashongi
you wouldn't ever hear.
Na sasa hiyo unaweza isikia.
Actually now it's so even children know. Yeah, because
walikamna kinini, you know.
Yeah, because the man, your song it was on Alchemist, one of the whitest, establishments. And you see white people, trying to, because
Lakini interestingly, ushaisikia ikiplay The Alchemist?
Nani?
Ushaisikia ikiplay? The last time ilikuwa ikiplay,
mimi nimesikia, yeah.
Like ilikuwa dina accent. Walikam na kinini?
Lakini unajua to be on your point ya media na masses to be considered ni the fact that hizo examples umetumia zimekuja during the internet era, where the dynamics za listenership na who controls the listening imebadilika. So zimekuja ile time yenye watu wanajidiktetia
What they want to
kile
listen to.
watasikia mtandaoni, kile itapop, kile watarepost, kile wataretweet.
And then
All of this ni factors zile zinachangia. And then the other thing ni when we are contemplating upon this and tukiangalia where music came from, as far as label executives, as far as radios, and where they pour money, where they have poured money and what they've been promoting,
they're very uninventive.
where they've been promoting. Sijui kama mmefikiria the role that labels have had to play ndo ifike to this point, this reality of this music. And also ukifikiria kuhusu masses and how much they direct or dictate what they're listening to, kuna hii history ya again radio na media na corporations wenye wako na specific agendas promoting and pushing certain music ndo ifike to this point. And considering now the masses in this conversation na the women in this conversation having to bear the burden of bringing this change, yet you are the same people being exploited. That you are the group that imekuwa disenfranchised na exploited by a history of labels, by a history of people in power pushing certain agendas up until this point. Now when hata kuna point inasema venye amesema kutumia formula, when this formula is being flipped on its head and they are doing what you deem as demeaning ama disrespecting themselves, because sasa pia kuna concept ya what is self-exploitation or self-commodification, if that is even a thing, that in a place the burden on this group of people wenye wamekuwa exploited with this system. Na kuna iku to understand how are we here in the first place, because with this ina feel imeanza from hii point this is the reality na ni nyinyi mnaitaka, but how have we got to this point ndio hii kuwe the reality, ndio tuseme now sasa hii pia ni makosa yenyu and how can you change it. Nilikuwa nafikiria as far as taking power back and kukuwa na agency and control, nilikuwa nafikiria hata tumwangelea the n-word, nilikuwa nafikiria the n-word in your context.
Just to make a paradox.
This situation, this is what me to degrade with, but we are taking it and then tuna flip on its head and claiming that power and saying it and becoming part of our lingo. Switch your narrative.
There's
racism.
There's something he said about you can't
and such.
So something about capitalism. You can't.
Always fight capitalism na capitalism.
Yeah. Because
you cannot dismantle the master's house.
Ilikuwa ni refer to your quote
using the master's tools.
The master's tools. Ilikuwa ni ilikuwa ni itaje, but
it's a very exploitative industry and especially for women, black men, and it's not just music, film as well. It's a very exploitative. So nile, chakula iko, but for you to eat, you have to. It's like a dress code kwa nini fulani. There was a restaurant I went to. I wanted to make a reservation, and then wako like no. Nikiwa kwa website yao wakasema no football jerseys or shorts or sandals. Now, it's not that I was to wear a football jersey or a short or sandals.
And that is how you didn't make a reservation.
But I didn't go because
why are you telling me what to wear?
Exactly. See, I'm paying. So it's kind of the same thing, because there's a piece of the pie for women, for you women. There's a piece of the pie, but for you to have it, you have to make this certain type of content. So because the men who are eating the pie were making that type of content, so maybe it was like, if they're not gonna stop making this content and they're benefiting from disrespecting us, then going back to the nigger paradox, so it goes back to what you say, like what is what does empowerment look like to you? Do you get to determine what empowerment looks like to you? Because
Yeah, cause the power that corporations have had in the music that tunasikiza and what inamakingi to the mainstream platforms, kuna a lot of money since tunaongelea capitalism that inakuanga
sunken.
thrown in just to promote specific
they want
music
Yeah.
na specific content.
And it's not out of the
And
goodness of their heart.
it's a long age tradition
Yeah.
They want to
that
make a profit.
that ime to bring to this specific point. So
Do you agree?
nili with their views na nilikuwa
Well, what is your-
nilikuwa
what is
nilikuwa
your-
na watch nashangaa.
What is your take?
Hawa ni nani?
Nilikuwa na watch najiambia, kuna a lot of blind spots that they're having and a lot of analytical loopholes that wanna miss in how they're observing
Analyzing it.
the entire circumstance and the reality that tuko in, and kuna a lot of things to unpack, kuna so many layers za kuget into. And as I was listening to this, nilikuwa nataka ni reach out to people na nisikie their sentiments, and I did. So I'll play something here and then mnaweza share pia sentiments zenyu, but I did reach out to people wenye walinipatia maono that ningetaka to get into.
I'm not necessarily a hip hop connoisseur or anything of that sort. But one thing I do know is women, lol. And one thing I do know also is how society is reflected in like social communication, just like the role of social communication in the reflection of our society. And so this is what we're seeing in this conversation. So first of all, disclaimer, I am yet to watch the documentary, but then I did listen to the podcast and to be able to get the context of, everything that was being discussed. I listened to music here and there, popular music particularly. So I happen to be very familiar with the songs that are mentioned, that are referenced to in the conversation. So the very first thing that was said that caught my attention was women control the culture of what happens in these spaces. The intriguing thing for me was the spaces that were being spoken about. So let's talk about these spaces. He's speaking about male pioneered and dominated spaces. He's talking about clubs and the rap scene. Male pioneered and dominated spaces. And he says that women control the culture of what happens in these spaces. Goes right ahead to talk about how women should say they don't want to be disrespected. How, we don't want to hear any of this nasty stuff. Women have been saying that. I feel like that has been the most consistent thing that women have said with regard in response to rap music. That has been the most consistent thing that women have said about in response to rap music. They do not want to be disrespected. They do not want to be portrayed as such. We did not create these spaces, first of all. We did not determine the rules of how things operate in these systems. The second thing is it's only disrespectful to women because that's what women respond to. Okay. The other thing that also caught my attention was someone did bring up, did ask a question that I also would have wanted answered. He asks, I think it's the white guy. I'm sorry, I do not know the names, but the white guy, he was like, if men are in the position of power in this aspect, so that is clubs and radio, what if they didn't play any of that other music? And the response to that was that they'd be looking for jobs. And that men cannot do this because there's a burden on men to perform, to make sure they keep that money rolling in. And so on. Then now we're blaming capitalism. And then it goes right ahead to talk about how women should walk off the dance floor for this whole charade to stop. So the very first response to just that women should walk off the dance floor and that men are making this type of music. So this type of music being music that is disrespectful, quote unquote, disrespectful to women and that sort of thing. Because, they have to make the money and that is what women are responding to. It just makes me wonder, these men have no agency, huh? right? Because that is what I am understanding, is that men in this whole ploy have zero agency. Men are the victim of what women want, and they are a victim of capitalism. And someone does actually just goes ahead and emphasizes that men are always going to do quote, men are always going to do what we can to impress the women because you want them around. So please help me understand. Men have zero agency and are a victim of capitalism and women's desires. So that's the first thing that I would like understood. Now, once we are able to ask ourselves that question, then we narrow down to this whole idea of capitalism, right? We as human beings in general, so both men, women, gender non-conforming individuals, we have decided that we are victims, total victims. We have no part in capitalism. Capitalism happens to us. Very rarely do I hear us speaking about our responsibility with regards to how we are able to keep that wheel running. Now, the other thing with regards to gender relationships in this context, gender dynamics in this particular context, from this conversation, I am hearing a group of men, and this is why I honestly understand why women keep complaining about the podcast bros. Men in this context have zero agency. That is what you're telling me, that they're victims of women and capitalism. Now, what I'm hearing actually is men calling women to come and clean up a mess they made, which is classic, right? Classic burdening women from like the 1920s cult of womanhood kind of thing. I know that was specific to white women, but listen, same concept, right? Burdening women to take the responsibility of ensuring that our societies remain morally upright. So what is men's responsibility in that? I would like to understand. You're saying it, you're financing it, you're pushing it in radios, and it is the women's responsibility to come and take care of it. Women have never been given agency over their sexuality. It has always been a product of consumption by men and mass media. Men through mass media. The conversations that came up around music, such as WAP, to be specific, was women taking agency of their bodies and of their sexuality and how they were spoken about. What was wrong with that? Why are you all mad we're doing it? You wanted to be the only ones doing it?
Is there another recording?
Kuna maono.
I am not smart. I am not smart.
Niko nazo, but
Mi niko roja kwanza anza na maoni.
Agency. Una agency. Una agency.
We are victims of madness.
So hiyo ni kardinali. Wrong rende.
is there a different opinion?
Unataka combine thoughts zako?
No, because of time and
Yeah.
yeah.
So hiyo ya kwanza ni from Ivia, Mutethya, and it's a lengthy sharing and exploration that I'll get into, which I would love to also just share, but I'll use them for a deeper analysis of this specific conversation, kuangalia representation na women specifically in hip hop na in art in general. So that's from Ivia, and kuna vile nimechop in some spaces, in some places, could get the gist of a majority of what alikuwa anagusia for this particular one. So utasikia different versions sometime in future if we ever get there. Tumesikia tumetosheka na life rather. So kuna ingine hapa, and then tuta get into sentiments.
This, I think, is on another episode of Just Like the Camper's Hand finds the north, the fingers of a man will always point to a woman to blame and everything. I know when I write down that quote, it will look better, but that is a quote by Nawal El Sadawi from Egypt. I speak with the full knowledge that the world is not just made of women and men, especially the Black world is not made of just women and men. How I knew this podcast or whatever I've listened to was going to be shit is when they started to use the word female as a replacement of women. And then the way they constantly said, when we say this, we will get in trouble. It's the most thing ever that I've ever listened to. Because if you know you're going to get in trouble, then why are you saying it? And if you're willing to say it, then why are you telling us you're going to get in trouble so that we defend you? Like, what do you want us to play here? What do you want us to do here with that information? Why do you want to look like you're a martyr? You're not. What was this research? What did they do this research? This research that he keeps talking about, research says. Where did he do it? Where is it? Because I've looked for it and there is nothing. And most of the research that they always quote has always been funded with the constant thing of Black women are the drivers of the industry, of the part of hip hop that says nasty shit. I think this is what happens when you give someone like microphones to people who have no political analysis, class analysis, and are filled with a lot of pseudo-intellectualism and they're privileged and they're just out here speaking like some overfed drums. Like he just kept talking. He just kept saying the way these females have done what, Black women have done what, and the way these females have done what, the burden, and to come and talk about the burden of change, to put burden of change and changing an exploitative system, to put it on the exploited people, I think it's very stupid. I really find it stupid to take the burden of finishing or ending exploitation and put it on the most exploited people. Black women in the industry are some of the most exploited people next to queer people, but they are exploited culturally. They are exploited intellectually. They're exploited artistically. When people talk about women in hip hop coming to join the game by singing nasty shit, wasn't hip hop built on the culture of seeing things as it is? A culture of observing how people move and how traditions change. And that's the same thing that they praise Tupac for, to be able to say things as they are, to talk about, oh, we play this kind of music because, it's decided by women what type of music is played in the clubs or what type of music DJs get to play. If they're going to base this on even things as cultural as, oh, that person sang nasty shit and called women whatever, and then the women were twerking, as if people who exist in an exploitative system, and this is why I'm talking about, I hate when artists do this thing where they do pseudo-intellectualism so that they can sound brilliant, but they do not have even the political analysis to back some of their beliefs up. That white boy almost got whatever he was getting to, but he didn't. He almost got the point. He missed that fucking joke like an empty room. When Meg was talking about what happened between her and Tory Lanez, who are the people who've been defending Tory Lanez all this while? Even the last album that he wrote, where did he dedicate it to? Or these people think research is supposed to be just pulled out of your ass and then you say research says, because you went to an event here, Tory Lanez, and you saw 10 women. And you're like, Black women still support Tory Lanez. But what is supporting people when we already exist in a system? And I know and I accept there can never be clean consumption under capitalism, because at some point it trips you. How do you expect people who are already exploited to be the ones to pull themselves out of the exploitation when everything around them supports their exploitation? Why women are stealing from Black men, from Black women? Black men are stealing from Black women. Like, you're being robbed like a motherfucker. Then someone comes and tells you, if you wanted the exploitation to stop, this is pull yourself by the bootstrap bullshit that they've been telling us about. Like, if you're so exploited, then pull yourself by the bootstraps. Because if you pull yourself by the bootstraps, then your freedom is just like nigh. When you listen to stories of people like Jill Scott and all of these other people, how they've had to survive in this industry, I can't say I'm one of the biggest fans of Lauryn Hill, but to listen to Lauryn Hill, the kind of ways that she had to survive in the industry, then the first thing you say, oh, that person being exploited is the one they should have done better, and this is how they do better. They should consume right. And if the black DJs, black men who are DJs, are the ones playing this music, how is the burden again on these people who were just looking for a break time? I want to understand, at what point do people get held accountable for what they decide to do? And being, I'm looking for money, or I'm just hustling, is not an excuse. It's not an excuse.
I thought there was more.
Hiyo ni also an abridged version of a lengthier examination from CC Bagbo, and I'll be getting into easy conversations baadaye, whichever way that it happened, but mlikuwa na mawazo, mlikuwa mnataka ku share regarding the same.
Alright, bwana
Scholar.
Mi ningesema CC na Ivia like wakona, of course wakona like bonge la points.
Bagbo, CC like CC.
We are one.
We are one. It's okay.
Mkoki?
Now I've been exposed to a lot of Swahili. So.
You have? Shocking.
Naam. I got a side gig.
You got a side gig? Hey.
Translation.
Hey. Haya basi.
Imagine man, learning on the job.
Uko na kamusi hapo kando?
Yes, no.
Kuna kamusi?
No, si translator. Kamusi niko nayo, but kamusi itanisaidiaje
ati kamusi itakusaidiaje?
So it's a translation.
Anyway, it's okay. Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Kamusi itakusaidia. Hata sijui mbona nimebring up. Like mbona ikusaidie? Itakusaidiaje?
So you read the description and then come up with an English. There are very many English
tena thoughts zako. Achana umswahili.
Don't go into the intricacies of my guess.
Of your job.
Bagbo na Ivia wamekuwa na bonge la points. Obviously hata vile tu alikuwa anasema hiyo story ya put the blame on the victim na kutaka the victims like makosa ni yako. Like ulipigwa, makosa ni yako, mbona ulipigwa? Ungepigana, you know. Definitely like na agree with that point. Na hiyo story na samani nyingine, hiyo story na capitalism, na there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. They cannot be, you know, because capitalism, man. Tunafai kuwa na episode ya capitalism tukicomplain. And then hiyo story ya agency ya ma brother, like vile ameweka, like wameweka ni kama brother ana agency ile ya like na it's true vile ameweka, as in like wameweka ni kama yenyewe hawana nguvu, na that's a lie. Cause hata ukiangalia to a certain point, vile kwa sama story na kuwa fired, you have to play certain kinds of songs na nini. I don't think it's true to that extent, you know. Like I don't think it's true to that extent. With regards to
exploitation.
Yes.
What's the word? Commodification.
Yes, in terms of self-exploitation, self-commodification, vile muiangalia, like na feel kwanza ukiangalia tu under capitalism, as in where do we draw the line? Self-commodification, if I write about my life and how quote unquote my father beat me and this person raped me and nini, like as opposed to like someone else andikae how they have lots amounts of sex and how their body is amazing, like
it is.
I was sure.
Roger Tarini.
I was sure. Interject.
I've been going to the gym. Nini.
Yeah, man, we see man.
Tunakuona.
You're looking nice.
Thank you.
Anyway, like where does the buck stop? Like who is self-commodifying themselves in a bad like ile ya, cause sisi wote tuna sell our stories. Now even before we started doing reviews of music, of Kenyan music, nilikuwa I was leaning heavily into quote unquote conscious music, like ile si party, ile si nini, and I was of the day layer hii music ya party music na feel good music inafai ku reduce, but like vile tulianza ku review na the more I listened to it, yes, I wouldn't say it's for me, but na feel hata easy like there's a space for what is being said. It's just that like seme shida ni like ni kama vile mabrother wanatokelezea wanaanza kuongelea fuck these bitches, fuck these hoes, but like bitch akitokelezea sama fuck these bitches, fuck these hoes, like I don't know cuz unajua I can't see from their eyes, unajua, but like from a brother's eyes, cause I'm a brother, naelewa na naona brother kile unasema ukisema fuck this niggas na get kama si nigga juu ni against other brothers, unajua, lakini against the women, like I get the exploitation na pia vile amesema it's something that has happened with hip hop from time immemorial, na aka bring up Tupac, akisema vile Tupac ni Ivia ndo alibring up Tupac.
And that was Bagbo.
Ni Bagbo.
Kusema vitu vile viko.
Vitu vile viko, yeah. Akibring up Tupac, sema Tupac alikuwa sema ka ngoma yake ya mama yake. Dia mama. Like kuna vitu zingine pia anasema hapo unajiuliza you know. But then again anaongelea mama yake. So like
cleaning out my closet.
Yeah, exactly. like where pia do we as listeners tunasema hapana hiyo acha, unajua, yes pia of course kuna music enyewe yafai exist. Hakuna haja tudanganyane. Mimi na feel kuna music ile unasikiza hiyo like but then again people still vibe to it. so as
inaukana jaribu ku expound on the line and where do we draw this,
where do we draw the line,
na nikisikia sentiments za Ivia akisema how people have been complaining about the degrading and depiction of women forever, nilikumbuka Sidelo ama Sidelores rather.
Yeah.
And then Royce alimtumia kwa project yake fulani. Roger, naweje maoni yako tukikafunga tupatie kwa another paradox ya kupresent the listeners paradox.
Mimi ngoja aseme the whole paradox.
There is. Of course.
Of course, you got a paradox here.
There is. Again. So,
what's your thoughts?
I can understand their opinions and I agree with most of them. Both from the excerpts and kidogo from the podcast. I'll go back to saying, yes, it is true that the hip hop spaces were very, very masculine and they are dominated by men.
And misogynistic.
I think, and excessively. I think
very. Like, I am laughing because like it's insane how misogynistic hip hop.
The absurdity.
It's like Tunado.
Rappers have said things.
and
they keep saying things.
Yeah, and even the way they carry themselves, like
and it's not just a hip hop thing. It's just like a rock pop. It's just
a societal thing.
Yes, a societal.
Exactly.
The patriarchy.
Exactly. So that is true, and it's like your again it goes back to Kenya nilisema there's a pie na unaweza dishi, but kama unataka kudishi you have to play according, do certain things and dress in a certain way, sing or rap about certain things. For that I do agree with it. I do agree with it completely. Now Kenya umesema kuna mziki zingine usikianga uko like hey, nah, this is not for me, or this is not even meant for any ears.
For public consumption.
Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as to say, the whole, because I'm a listener. Fortunately, sina any sway with the masses.
But then you need barriers as to what you can listen to.
No, it's true.
You are all for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
No, it is
Freedom of speech.
Yeah,
Freedom of speech.
It is. It is. So I am a listener and I am a creative, and kuna vitu zingine I gravitate towards both as a listener and kuna vitu zingine that I will write about as a creative. Now, so it goes back to where do we draw the line? Okay, so yes, this has been a massive issue in hip hop, the exploitation of women. It has been ever since hip hop began. I can't maybe not ever since hip hop began, because I'm not privy to those early years, because Eminem joined hip hop njiani. But when I joined it in the late 90s and the noughties and onwards, it was heavily misogynistic. You have rappers like Queen Latifah, you have MC Lyte, you have I think the then on the other spectrum you have the Lil Kims, you have the Foxy Browns. In this generation you have the Rhapsodies, and you have the Rhapsodies, you have the Little Sims,
The No Names.
and then on this other spectrum you have the Cardi.
Little Sims was like, oh my god.
Yeah. And then you have the Cardi B's, you have the Meg Thee Stallions, and you have the Nicki Minaj's. Now,
The Ice Spices.
And the Ice Spices, and the one with my booty hole is brown. I don't know who that is.
The Sexy Red.
We know Sexy Red.
Of course, Coded knows
Yeah.
about the person whose booty hole is brown.
Hata kwa the podcast wali refer to that.
They did. So is it now, so for me, my question is this: are they quote unquote taking back the power in their own way, like how black men took the N-word, which is what I was using as the nigger paradox, because there are some black men who, regardless of who uses it, uses the N-word, they're like, no, because of the history of that name, don't use it at all, even if I am a black man. And there's some men, a majority of black men who see that N-word as we are reclaiming the power or whatever.
Yeah, although I don't think like a majority currently Akituvia, their thoughts go that far back.
Of course.
The only reason I use the word nigga is because I'm reclaiming
of course. No.
I don't think.
Kwanza in our local na continental context.
Man. It's just a dope word. Which is so wrong.
Where is the historical context?
There are no niggas in Africa. but then there's a stand-up comedian, DL Hughley, who says he doesn't agree with the word, and he'll be very happy if there's a time when it will no longer be used. But then he goes on to say, but that word, there are some men that word describes just perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, there's someone you see and it's like, man, here go this nigga here, man.
Umesema hivyo inanikumbusha line. I can't remember who said it, but nikisema mbibi kwa utajua ni nani. Sema, I call a bitch, aho, a nigga.
Sikumbuki ni nani.
I can't remember who.
Yeah, they even,
I call a bitch, aho.
Call a spoon, call a spade.
And then a nigga. Like an endaki.
So my thing is, I don't know if it's them taking back power from I don't know, because maybe it's like male hip hop artists have been feeding on the exploitation of women for decades. And we are told the only way we can get in is if we make a certain type of music. Because first of all, the whole thing is just controlled by white men, especially when hip hop became marketable. It's just being controlled by white men. And
True that.
As Africans, we all know white men don't have a good track record. No one came
As
to,
black people in the world.
Yeah.
You can't trust them.
As black people in the world.
Yeah. No one ever, no white man ever gave charity just to give charity. There's something
There's
that
an
they're getting
ulterior
back.
motive.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's them doing the whole, with male hip hop artists have been feeding on the exploitation of women for decades. So I'm gonna do this. Cause I think I don't know which female artist it was, but she was like, this is the type of stuff I sing, but I get the money and I've been able to move my mom out of the hood and do this and this for my nieces and da 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 da. So it's kind of like again, the whole pie analogy. So I don't know if it's them just taking back the power and be like, okay, because this is how things are, and clearly it's not going to change anytime soon. Let's just do it, because they're this and so.
Unajua pia kuna a lot of men wenye ukuwa bothered when women take that power.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
That is a
Yeah.
that is a
big
thing.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
then
thing.
unashanga why.
That is a
And
thing.
I kind of think
huge.
I kind of think this is the way of men getting it back. It's kind of like the white man and the whole house nigga and field nigga. So if you want to be in the house, you have to look a certain way. Light skin, of course. You have to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, and you think you're getting ahead. But no. This is just you're still being demeaned one way or another.
Just being demeaned at a higher level.
Differently. So and that's why I'm saying I don't know if it's them taking back
the power
or
it's still
are they just
they're still playing into the hand that is controlling everything.
Kuna a lot of layers za
Exactly.
ku unpack from this
Exactly.
and we could delve into it.
Yeah.
Sasa tunamaliza. Sasa mkona list zenyu.
Hey, me got a list.
Aya.
I've been waiting.
So this is tumalize sasa.
Uko show me
So just
nianze?
go through it quickly.
Yeah, international ama
Must listens.
International.
Tukona very few minutes before.
Sawa,
So
international.
katika to share must listen hip hop albums internationally, and then must listen / must have Kenyan hip hop albums. So just list.
Can we
yours
add
as we
EPs?
finish.
So naanza?
Just albums.
Z albums.
So naanza na?
Anza na globally.
Anza Kenya.
Anza
Achana
na
na
globally.
podcast ni ya
Aya
nani?
basi.
Msako na
So I only have 5.
Utaja.
Kuna nane.
Taja tatu nitaje tatu. Ndio kwa list ya Kenya.
Alieka mfdumkan.
So this
Zinga na tano.
As we finish this.
hii ndio list yangu ya 5. So the first one ni The Mouse and the Mask Mad Villainy M Food Operation Doomsday. Ya pili
Wewe
ni
ni mjinga sana. Niona kile umedu. Amecombine projects za Doom kadha. Kwa shangeni gani hii? Aishi. Si ati mouse ni food Doom.
ya pili Revolutionary Volume 1.
IT.
Maze. Ya tatu The Impossible Kid, Float, Fast Cars, Danger, Fire and Knives,
So
Labor Days.
Such a cheat. Hizo ni enough, Roger. Hizo ni more than
Aki mazejo.
Roger.
One more basi. One more guys.
Roger, give us
Room
yours.
25 ya no name.
Na kona new project.
Hata sijasikiza hiyo.
So nilitry to get at least one from each decade. Or the decade that nilianza kusikiza hip hop.
Tungeza
So,
hizi list guys.
from the 90s, People's Instinctive Travels in the Paths of Rhythm. That is by a tribe called
Maybe
Quest.
ATCQ.
Yeah. From the 2000s, Stankonia,
Okay.
Outcast.
Mimi kana kwa mimi.
And also from the 2000s, late registration ya Kanye West.
Mimi kana college dropout. Na my beautiful dark twisted fantasy.
I was debating between that and 808 and Heartbreaks, but I don't know if that counts as a hip hop album because it's more, From the 2010s, niko na To Pimp a Butterfly, and then
Niko na good kid.
and then from the 2010s as well, niko na Swimming.
Yeah, nani.
zangu ni nini Madvillainy
Ndio kuna msemaji lazima yake.
Madvillainy ya Doom. Hata feeling ungekuwa na Doom hapo. And approach yangu ilikuwa essential
Doom na Madlib.
essential hip hop albums.
Yeah.
But pia sikuwa nataka the most common of names. Lakini ukiangalia list za top rap albums, top hip hop albums, Madvillainy na my second option zinakuanga. The third one ukuwa kwa Sam. Nasema my third one and my second one. My second one ukuanga. Ya third one ukuwa kwa list za some specific people na listeners, but they are essential albums for hip hop. Alafu nikaifanya ikuwe 2000s and beyond. So see the golden era 90s kurudi nyuma. So Madvillainy, Doom na Madlib, T-Pub, K Lamar, then ya tatu ni Fantastic Damage ya LP. Hiyo ni ya 2002, T-Pub 2015, Madvillainy 2004. Alafu I had those three. Kenya
All Roads Lead Home, Nairobi, Mtaa Mentality, Antidote.
Pengine watu wa jeans akina nani?
All Roads Lead Home ni ya Trouble, Nairobi ni ya aitwaje, K-South. Ni ya K-South. Check out K-South. Knowledge na Mashairi ni ya Romi. Antidote ni ya Romi na Genetic Disorder. Also wanaitoka Black Swahili. Asema artist nini? Rift ni ya 1183. Rift ni a must have, must listen. Oh my goodness. Super God Black. And then Mentality ni ya Juliani.
From oldest tukirudi Malizaro 1, that's Tra na Akili Black.
Okay.
Knowledge na Mashahiri yani Romi, and then kuna Dandora Banin.
Yangu nili-approach pia in the same way, essential hip hop albums. Ni wakati Kalamashaka 2001, that is a must listen, and najua lot wako na the tips, wako na a treasure in their hands. I hope itakuwa kwa streaming platforms hivi karibuni. My second one, Dandora Burning 2006, a follow-up to Kilio cha Haki. That album is iconic. Kazi ya Chosen Brain na Musyoka on that album, crazy. My third one, of course, Romi, Knowledge na Mashairi. Must have, must listen, masterpiece yani 2015. Special mentions, Old Roads. Nilijua utaitaja.
Kuna special mentions.
Nilijua utaimention. Nilikuwa na She ya Mudhoni Drama Queen. That is also...
Is that a rap album though?
Yeah. That's the album must listen.
But album zake is kwangi.
Alafu Mtaa Mentality. Yeah, 207 ya Juliani. Hiyo must listen for sure. Definitely.
Sijui aje kuwa na Rift mse.
Nijua utakuwa nayo actually. Nilikuwa na my special mentions, but nijua utakuwa nayo for sure. Yo, asante sana for listening to this episode. By the time ile siku nasikiza hii episode itakuwa third anniversary ya Sanako sana.
Woo! Let's go. Illuminati, now is the time. 3 is the perfect number.
The perfect number on this exact day. Ni anniversary ya Sanako sana being on YouTube, so asante for your support, asante for being here and supporting kile tunafanya and all these ideas that we keep exploring and experimenting with. Jump in the comment section, tumongelea mengi, changia maoni yako as well. Shukran sana to Bagbo, shukran to Ivia, shukran to Irauka na Roger for coming through. Until next time. Asante sana. Comment, like, do all of those nice things, depending on what the platform unasikizia ina ku-offer. Asante sana pia to Mr. Engineer. Whoop whoop.